attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet now. Get ready for defeat now.
That is heads. Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here. And if you are confused, I just flipped the coin. Meaning that I just decided the entire fate of the series upon a coin flip. Now, with that being said, this is going to be a vigilante series. And, well, yeah. It is going to be different. I've actually been meaning to look at the Underworld movies and actually watch them. So I looked into it a little bit, and I'm glad I did. I almost missed something. Now, with that being said, let us begin. We will start with Hasashi Midoriya. Hasashi. That is not his real name. It is still Midoriya's dad. However, events are a bit different. Vampires do exist, and so do werewolves. In fact, many people would call Hasashi crazy. Because of the way he usually talks, he tries to keep to himself. However, that was whenever he switched his name and moved to Japan. Ever since then, he's become a bit more open-minded. And he actually did begin to fall for a woman he met. Her name was Inko. After talking more and, well, trying to hide himself from any threat that tries to come after him, he thought he finally did it. After almost an entire year of not encountering a vampire nor a werewolf, he thought his family was safe. And him and Inko got married. And the two had Midoriya. Now, Hasashi, he's not very special. He does not possess a quirk. Inko does. And Hasashi is trying to think. He's not really too sure why they try coming after him, let alone why this keeps happening. Simply telling his wife, Inko, about it. He is going to sound crazy, and he really hopes that she will believe him. Sitting her down and giving her an explanation, along with pulling something out of the closet. Inko, not really too sure about it. Hasashi decided to give her this explanation after she told him she was pregnant. And Hasashi, yeah. He's felt this eating away at him, explaining that for most of his life he's had to run. There is a threat out there. And, as weird as it sounds, he's had to deal with it a lot. His family has dealt with it, he's dealt with it, his grandfather had to deal with it, and so on and so forth. He's not too sure why. But when he finds out, he's going to fix it and solve it. I don't know if my family pissed off the wrong people or what, but I do know one thing. These monsters, these things, they look and act human. They're not. Hasashi explaining. Whenever he was a young boy, he saw his father get murdered by a man. Then, he ran. And what happened was, he thought his father died. However, one day he showed up as a vampire, at his doorstep. Hasashi was always told certain things, and trained a certain way. him simply pulling out a plastic baggie, and a few other things. Evidence. Things that his father kept. Things that he kept. And has gathered throughout his life. Explaining to her that this is called nightshade. You can grind it up and mix it with water. Make it a fine paste. Use cornstarch, whatever you can get. Anything that will help this stuff turn into jelly is preferable. Simply just telling her, this stuff hurts one of them. To which he then pulls out a small container of bullets, which are silver, saying that and these hurt the other. In all his life, he found out what it was. He found out that it was vampires 5 years ago, and he's been running, changing his name and doing what he can. Explaining that he finally believes that he's gotten rid of them. He finally believes that he is free of them, that they won't find him. Hisashi somewhat beginning to break down, and showing her some of the evidence. She is honestly a bit surprised, and she kinda doesn't want to believe Hisashi. However, some of these tapes and things do at least add up. Hisashi showed her a video he had. The phone inside the container or the box, it had a lot of evidence. A man suddenly just bursting into flames whenever he walked into the sun. And what she believes to be Hisashi's father firing a bolt at someone's face. And the guy simply grabbed it out of the air. That should not be humanly possible. Other things that seem too unbelievable for a quirk. Along with watching someone turn into an actual werewolf. This surprising and shocking Inko. Hisashi just saying that in a couple of years, if he ever thinks that they're onto him, or even try and find him again, they need to run. And he hopes that she understands. He's not going anywhere right now. He's not going to abandon her. If he has a chance to be free, he is going to be free of this curse. Inko, yeah, she's very surprised. And Hisashi does explain. His mother, his dad, yeah, a lot of things are different. On his mother's side, she was quirkless. Then another one of my ancestors. Then another and another, going back to around the first generation. I'm not sure why, but something about my family. There's always a pattern. Each line of my family is quirkless. I'm fairly certain our baby will be too. And if he is, then yeah, he's probably gonna have to deal with this one day. So, Inko just thinking, trying to process all this information, telling Hisashi that they will be ready then. And she does actually open this box of silver bullets. And look at them. They have a strange tip. It looks somewhat like glass housing. Him just explained to her that those are silver nitrate bullets. They're able to get into the bloodstream easier. And that if you use them properly, all you need is a good headshot. And a few of them. Now, eventually, Midoriya is born. And Hisashi doesn't have any instances of fear. Sometimes he does stay up late at night and think about the what ifs. What if it happens? What if it doesn't? What if one of those guys with fangs busts down his door? Hisashi taking this time to learn and beginning to grow a bit of a garden. Outside of the balcony, Hisashi began to grow nightshade, just in case. Vampires would not dare try and pass through that wall. If he's got an entire wall lined with nightshade, they wouldn't even want to go near that stuff. Meaning that the front door would be their only option. Now, eventually, a lot of time does pass, and Hasashi, who works as a mechanic now, he does find it out, getting a call and hearing about it. As soon as he does hear that his son is quirkless, he basically drops onto his knees, realizing that it's starting. It's happening again. It's always like this. Someone just screaming out as loud as he can, and getting angry, before heading home for the day. Now, Midoriya, he is sad to hear about this, and he doesn't understand. Why is he quirkless? His mom has a quirk. His dad's quirkless, but he's still big and strong. I can be just like him. Now, whenever Hasashi does arrive, he does sit Midoriya down and begin to instruct him on certain things, explaining to him that what they're going to be doing is going to be very, very dangerous. And in fact, you're going to want to be prepared. To which, he then hands Midoriya a berry, telling Midoriya that he needs to eat this. Take one of them every single day. Actually, hang on. Him actually cutting it in half. He's giving Midoriya a nightshade berry. If he has nightshade in his bloodstream, if a vampire were to try and sniff him out, they would smell that. Hasashi sometimes uses it to cover his scent and try to deter vampires. If they smell that stuff and they're trying to bite into your neck, they'll either jump away or almost piss themselves trying to gain control, since that's basically a death sentence. He's had a vampire come very close. He felt saliva on his neck once, and this tactic saved his life. He's tried talking with a few of them, but mostly, they simply just stalk him and try to wait him out. But he's always gained the upper hand. When day breaks, he runs and hides, staying somewhere, well, very well hidden at night. A place they probably would not be able to find him. Now, Midoriya does eat this berry, and it's got a bit of a weird taste. And shortly afterwards, Midoriya does begin to feel a little sick. Hasashi explained to him exactly what it does, before giving him an explanation. He is just like him. He is very special. And what they are going to be doing, well, it's going to be very, very dangerous. And he hopes that one day, all of it will be over, and he won't have to deal with it anymore. That his son will be able to escape it. Now, Hasashi, yeah, he does have this small dream. But he is very uncertain, not knowing if it will be enough. And he does actually get Inko to start trying the berries. Start actually doing this. She still does need a bit of convincing to basically try and build up, well, resistance to these things. If vampires don't want to eat them, yeah. Learning that they're pretty toxic to people. If you don't eat too many, you'll be fine. However, Midoriya is a bit more at risk, since he is a child, and simply eating 2 of them might kill him. Or about 4, depending on if he gets medical attention or not. Now, With that being said, Midoriya does begin to learn and be trained by his father. His dad teaching him how exactly to prepare bullets, how to use things, and what to do with Nightshade, since it's basically your best bet. Along with that, he does teach Midoriya how to look for signs. The only reason why he stayed alive this long is because of what he is, and how he's adapted. Now, one day, with this going on, you do have, well, someone following Hasashi. Hasashi, he was at work today, and he was encountered by a strange man who wanted to talk with him. Hasashi, yeah, he had a strange feeling in his gut. That feeling he thought would never return. He spent the last 7 to 8 years wondering if his son would ever be safe. He spent a decade living free of this life. And now it's back. That familiar feeling. That gut-wrenching feeling that something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. And you have no control anymore. He was pulled back into this life with just that feeling alone. And talking with this man, he does discover something. The man, yeah. The way he's acting and talking to Hasashi, it doesn't show much. But that feeling, he knows. This man is a werewolf. The man eventually leaving after asking about his bike, and trying to see if Hasashi would be able to give him an idea of how much a new pair of wheels would cost. Now, Hasashi, he gave the man a rough estimate, and the man eventually left. However, he began to keep an eye out on the man, and bring his gun from home. He applied for another one, so Inko can use it in case something happens to him. Now, after a couple of weeks, he begins to notice more people showing up. Whenever he does look outside, he notices that sometimes there's someone in the distance. He's not too sure if they're a hero or not. In fact, he once heard someone moving around outside the patio, just where his nightshade is grown, and he's fairly certain that they jumped away from it. Now, after that night, Hasashi knew this is going to be trouble. And he explained to Midoriya what he needs to do. Explaining to Midoriya that he has to leave. Midoriya is going to need to go somewhere else. And he hopes that he'll be safe. Telling Midoriya that he is going to hold them off and make sure that he isn't followed. Now, whenever morning comes, Hasashi, he gives them an old truck. He was supposed to be fixing it up and replacing a few things. He got it fixed early in the morning, right before sunrise. And he then gave it to Inko and Midoriya. And Midoriya did actually say goodbye to an old friend. He simply just told Bakugo that he had to go somewhere, and Bakugo didn't really care. Now, Midoriya, he then left with his mother. And the werewolves didn't really think much of it. They do follow and try and stalk Hasashi. However, sometimes they don't pay attention very well. They might have heightened senses, but whenever they are in a crowd, they can't really spot a lot of things. There's too many things moving, and they begin to succumb to sensory overload. Just having multiple lichens in one place, and being somewhere very public, might be very bad. That is why Hisashi got an apartment close by a highway, just in case they ever try to follow him. Too much noise. Inko hates it, but she grew accustomed to it. He bought her something for the sound. Now, you do have Hisashi, who he is at home. And he actually does take out an old knife from a closet, and his guns, as he simply just sits there on the couch, loading silver bullets, and waiting for the nightshade to thicken up, so he can coat blades, and take a few. Now, with that being said, Hisashi, he is ready. And whenever night does come, werewolves, and a lot of people, do try to invade the apartments. Werewolves try to climb in and attack. They come in from the balcony, and Hisashi is able to make quick work of them, firing off round after round at the werewolves, and hitting a few of them. Some of them trying to retreat, since climbing over the corpse of their friends, yeah, it's not fun. Along with Hisashi basically exposing the fact that he has silver bullets. And you also have the vampires. They rush in and try and fight against the lichens, to which they don't really have much success. Their new objective is just to get this man. And Hisashi, he is eventually cornered. Lichen, and, well, surprise, surprise, vampires. They want to turn him. Hisashi, he knew it was a risk, and he knew he would die from it. In fact, he planned on that. He jury-rigged a bomb. In fact, he used pieces from his shop, and simple household items. The stove is lit and the gas is running. Hisashi saying that he's fairly certain that it's about time, as vampires do go to bite into his arms, and they are deterred immediately, along with lichens trying to fight back, and wanting to bite into his flesh. Now, whenever a lichen does bite into him, they immediately step back, and try to get the blood out of his mouth. Hisashi pumped himself full of nightshade and silver, and his liver does not like him. The guy used to knock back a lot in his old days, but hey, he's not that young anymore. Hisashi's smirking. He knows that his body, if he begins to turn, or do whatever this usually happens to this shit, then his body's gonna die immediately. Too much silver. If he turns into a vampire, too much nightshade. As he does aim the gun upwards and fire it into his kitchen. Vampires and lichen watching. As soon as Hisashi fired, the spark blew up the entire, well, apartment. The ones on the level, his next door neighbors, on both sides, yeah, their houses exploded too. And the vampires and lichen began to cover this up, try and get what they could, what remains. And not much information is to go off of, except for what they can find in public files. Hisashi Midoriya. They thought he was the last of his line, and the vampires and the lichens were very much enraged, until they found out that the line was continued. And now, let's cut over to Midoriya. The next day, he's confused as to why they had to sleep in the truck. And his mother, whenever she does hear the radio, she turned it off. There was something about an apartment complex exploding, and that was as much as his mother could hear. Her simply pulling off the highway and stopping in a store, picking up snacks and a few things. As they begin a bit of a journey, they need to hide. She got hair dye and a few other things, just like Asashi told her she should do, in case this ever happens. Dye her hair, paint her nails, dye his hair, just something to look different. Now, she does do this, and it does actually help a lot. She looks like a completely different woman. And Midoriya, he does have the same hair to match. However, in code, she's still very sad. She knows for a fact that Hasashi is dead. He told her before this all started, he was not coming out of this alive. And he loves her. He gave her that box. A box to give Midoriya. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing night. Catch you guys in the next part.